Frozen plains, mountains with white peaks glistening in the distant sun, and rustic red snow. Welcome to Pluto, where nothing makes sense anymore. Looking at it from a distance, the ice ball planet is mostly predictably winter shades of white and light blue. Once you land on the surface, you'll notice familiar blue skies as well. But see that whale-shaped red stain running along the equator? Right there to the left of the white heart-shaped region, there she blows. This spot is bigger than Alaska, and it's a mystery to scientists. That's not red clay soil or anything you'll see on Earth. That's Pluto's version of ice. Scientists believe it's red because the atmosphere drops this strange soot-like chemical called tholin on the surface. It's the same stuff that explains the red cap on Pluto's moon Charon. Now let's zoom in closer on the whale. Oh look, we have a mountain range. Yes, Pluto's red ice is like rock, hard enough to form entire mountains. Those white peaks standing out against the dark red aren't snowy caps like we have on Earth. That's frozen methane. For such a small planet, Pluto's mountains are epic, bigger than Everest and made entirely of ice. Such a bizarre landscape can't be found anywhere else in our solar system. Yeah, Pluto's a pretty harsh cold place. Temperatures there can dip to minus 400 degrees Fahrenheit. The coldest ever recorded on Earth was in Antarctica, a measly minus 135. Now let's head back to the heart of Pluto. That's actually a vast plain covered in nitrogen ice. Scientists discovered that Pluto's heart makes the winds on the planet blow. Craters are also big, and some of them show signs of filling and erosion. That's something that happens right here on Earth. When land is worn away and shaped by natural forces like wind, water, and ice, that's erosion. So, what makes all this so special on Pluto? It could be evidence of tectonic plate activity. You know, big plates of land surfing on liquid rock, forming mountain chains, breaking continents apart, putting them back together? That's something scientists so far have only ever seen on Earth, not on any other planet in the solar system. Now, looks like Pluto could be more like our own planet. That, and there's water on Pluto, 1/3 of its surface in fact. But of course, it's not like Earth water. It's more like a rocky slushy. Yum. Still, no signs of life out there, at least not for now. It's taken a long time to get the little information we know about Pluto. It was first discovered almost 100 years ago and deemed the 9th planet from the Sun, until 2006 when its official planet membership card was revoked. Poor Pluto. It was dubbed the biggest dwarf planet in the Kuiper Belt, a region outside our solar system full of other dwarf planets and icy bodies circling the Sun. A few months before that, they launched the New Horizons mission. It was the first space probe researchers sent to Pluto in 2006. Zipping at over 35,000 miles per hour, that's 45 times the speed of sound, it still took the probe almost a decade to reach its destination. That's how far away the tiny planet is. In fact, Pluto is nearly 40 times the distance from Earth to the Sun. If you were there looking up at the sky, you'd see the Sun as a tiny dot like any other star in the sky. Once New Horizons finally reached Pluto in 2015, it got close enough to get some incredible pictures of the surface. It also collected important data and observations, like those strange red spots and that heart-shaped region. But Pluto gets even stranger, especially its orbit. Most other planets go around the Sun in almost perfect circles with the Sun close to the center. The Sun is nowhere near the center of Pluto's orbit, and the orbit is so stretched out that Pluto sometimes crosses into Neptune's path and gets closer to the Sun than the blue gas giant. So, the unusual effect of this strange orbit? Pluto sometimes has an atmosphere, and sometimes not. When it's closer to the Sun, a thin atmosphere of nitrogen forms. But once the planet starts moving further away from our Sun, the atmosphere freezes and falls to the surface in an ice storm of epic proportions. Pluto is probably a lot smaller than you imagine. If you put it on a map of the Earth, it would only span about halfway across the US. Yet this little planet has 5 moons spinning around it. And life on Pluto would be one endless year for us humans. Imagine no birthdays your whole life. Since it was discovered in 1930, we still haven't seen it complete a full circle around the Sun. 1 year on Pluto is 248 Earth years, and we'll finally see that happen on March 23, 2178. Mark your calendar. Since Pluto got kicked out of the official planet club, Neptune became the last one in line. It's actually a big ball of ice and gas. So, like with the other gas giants, if you tried to land on this planet, you'd just keep going deeper and deeper into seemingly endless clouds and atmosphere. Funny thing about the blue planet, it might not have a rocky surface like you and I are used to, but its surface-level gravity is about the same as Earth's. Same can't be said for any other planet in the solar system. As we make our way closer to the Sun, we pass the next gas giant, Uranus, that non-conformist planet that goes around the Sun basically rolling on its side. One full orbit is 84 Earth years, so you might be lucky enough to celebrate your first birthday in your whole life there. Only one party, so you better make it count. And now we approach the jewel of the solar system, Saturn, the second biggest planet after Jupiter and another gas giant where you'd sink in an endless atmosphere if you tried to land a spaceship there. Saturn is the least dense planet of them all, meaning if you put it in a giant glass of water, it'd float. Those famous rings are made up of dust, ice, and rock. Some as tiny as a grain of sand, others bigger than houses. But get this, Saturn's rings are raining down on the planet, enough to fill an Olympic-sized pool in a half an hour. At that rate, the famous blue ring system will disappear completely in 300 million years. By the way, Neptune, Uranus, and Jupiter also have rings. They're just not as visible and bright as Saturn's. Imagine combining all the planets into one. Now make it 2 times bigger. Still not as large as Jupiter. Scientists called it a failed star, since it's mostly made of helium and hydrogen, just like our Sun. But jumbo-sized Jupiter still isn't massive enough to kickstart the chemical processes that could turn it into a star. It's the fastest spinning planet, so it takes only 10 hours to complete a full rotation on its axis. Imagine trying to squeeze sleep, work, friends, hobbies, movies, shopping, your whole routine in less than half an Earth day. Magnificent tall mountains, the highest in the entire solar system. The most epic dust storms ever. Deep valleys, craters. I'm talking Mars, our potential home in the future. If you love sunsets, you'd definitely enjoy Martian ones. They're incredibly blue, while the sky throughout the day is pinkish red. Even though Mars is our closest neighbor, from the surface, the Sun would look half the size it does from Earth. So, not as close as it seems. Oh, and if you always dreamed of becoming a basketball player, Mars is your place. The red planet's gravity is only 37% of Earth's, so you jump 3 times higher there. Venus is a planet of extremes. The hottest surface, the most volcanoes, the brightest planet, and the closest one to Earth. It's also the slowest spinning and barely rotates, making a day on Venus last 243 Earth days. You could literally walk faster before the planet makes a complete turn. Venus also rotates in the opposite direction that Earth does, so sunrises are in the west and the sun sets in the east. Mercury. It doesn't have any moons or rings, and we're talking about the smallest planet in the whole solar system. A year lasts only 88 days, so if you live there, you'd have a lot of birthdays. Mercury is the closest planet to the Sun, but it's actually not the hottest. That prize goes to Venus. Temperatures on Mercury don't get as high as on Venus because it doesn't have an atmosphere to trap heat from the Sun. What Mercury does have is wrinkles. Its iron core cooled and shrank, causing the surface to contract too and leaving all those wrinkles. That, or because it's so close to the Sun with no SPF. Maybe. Pluto, an exoplanet and now the most famous dwarf planet in our solar system, is hiding somewhere far, far away in its dark corner. The temperature of Pluto's surface is freezing. I mean, wow! At first sight, it's just a distant, icy, and barren celestial body. But could Pluto be hiding something? Maybe even life? Scientists found out that, despite it being so far from the Sun, its interior is still warm. It's been that way ever since Pluto formed. Under the haze-layered atmosphere of Pluto, there's a frigid surface full of craters and impure water ice. There's also a large impact basin flooded by frozen nitrogen. And below that icy crust could be an internal ocean. When the surface of a planet stretches, it mostly leaves many fractures behind. The same goes with Pluto. You can see there are numerous cracks across its water ice crust. They're of all ages. Some even possibly date from 4.5 billion years ago, from the times when Pluto was still forming. The dwarf planet probably grew because it slowly accumulated small pieces of icy material. It condensed during the time when the outer region of our solar system was forming. This process was going intensely and fast enough to melt the base of the icy layer. The surface of Pluto extended as liquid water at the top of the ocean froze onto the base of its ice crust during its first half-billion years. The ocean may have stopped freezing for the next billion years. The buildup of radioactive heat temporarily balanced the rate of heat escape to space. But as Pluto produced less radioactive heat over time, the roof of its interior ocean continued to freeze, and it probably turned into a 120 miles thick layer between the rock and ice. Crusts were the first hint there might be an ocean there. Scientists got the second potential piece of evidence when they realized the icy shell had managed to glide across an essentially frictionless interior and reorient itself. And it's not just about the ocean here. The cool thing is that wherever there's water, there could be life. A potential ocean under an icy crust is not something that possibly exists only on Pluto. Some icy moons of our solar system have it too, like Saturn's moons Enceladus and Titan, and Jupiter's Europa. Enceladus and Europa could both have salty liquid oceans. Plus, they have similar water plumes erupting from their interior. These geysers tell us these moons have their own source of energy, probably because of radiation or gravity. Either way, that energy is what could support life. Have you heard of Ceres? It's our closest dwarf planet, the biggest object in the asteroid belt between Jupiter and Mars, and the first asteroid we discovered at the beginning of the 19th century. People even called it a planet then. Although it's not so popular, there's a possibility Ceres has a subsurface ocean too. Geysers could be the first sign of that. The water vapor plume could be a result of a meteorite strike that exposed subsurface ice to outer space. Ceres may have its own atmosphere too. This dwarf planet is relatively far from the Sun, but its surface temperature could go up to -37 degrees Fahrenheit. At these temperatures, if there was water ice at its surface, it would quickly change to gas, and this could create an atmosphere around this intriguing dwarf planet. Not just oceans, there are many volcanoes across our solar system too. Mercury, Venus, Mars, and Io, one of Jupiter's moons, have them. But apart from the Earth, Io is the only one that has more than 400 active volcanoes. 150 of them erupt at any given time. Scientists suspect there could be some volcanic activity on Venus and Jupiter's moon Europa too. But they can't check if that's true because Venus has an extremely thick atmosphere and Europa has a thick ice shell. And even though volcanoes in other spots are no longer active, we know they used to be because of specific landforms they left behind – hills, valleys, plains, mountains, and especially lava channels. It's like when you're watering your plants on the front porch, you see water flowing down your sloped driveway along specific pathways. This creates small channels, a lot like lava does. Our moon may have also had active volcanoes back in the age when dinosaurs were still roaming around. If they had had telescopes, they might have seen something spectacular – lava fiercely oozing from the surface of the moon. Astronauts took images of Ina, an unusual volcanic deposit on the moon, and there are 70 similar patches in the volcanic plains they found on the side of the moon that faces our planet. Some of them are over 1 billion years old, but some could have been formed less than 100 million years ago, and dinosaurs went extinct 66 million years ago. Speaking of dinosaur extinction, could Jupiter have been the main culprit for that? No one knows where this space rock that hit our home planet 66 million years ago came from, especially with such force. It left a crater off the coast of the Yucatan Peninsula in Mexico, and it probably caused earthquakes, tsunamis, and fierce volcanic eruptions that brought troubles not only to dinosaurs, but to nearly 3/4 of all animal and plant life on Earth. But some believe Jupiter was the one that flung the comet into the Earth. Gravity is a tricky force that can make the solar system act like a big pinball machine. Jupiter is our most massive planet, which means it has extremely strong gravity. It's like a guardian of our solar system that kicks many incoming comets away, sometimes bringing them pretty close to the Sun. As they get there, these comets can experience extremely strong tidal forces that break them apart and, in the end, create long chunks of a comet. And one of these chunks probably went towards the Earth. Have you heard of the story of Triton? Neptune has 13 moons, and Triton is the largest of them. It's the only giant moon in our solar system that has a retrograde orbit. It means it circles its parent planet in the opposite direction of its rotation. Scientists believe that's because Triton used to be in the Kuiper Belt, a disc-shaped area located in the outer solar system, past Neptune's orbit. And it's possible that Neptune's gravitational force pulled it out of that region millions of years ago. Pluto may have originated within the Kuiper Belt too. Pluto and Triton are almost the same. They have similar density, mass, and surface material. Now Triton is locked away in synchronous rotation with its parent planet Neptune, far away from what we believe is its homeland. Now, the most distant object we've discovered so far in our solar system is a mysterious planetoid called, wait for it, Far, Far Out. 1 astronomical unit is the average distance between the Earth and the Sun, around 92 million miles. Well, Far, Far Out is 132 astronomical units from the Sun, 4 times farther away than Pluto. Since it's so far away, Far, Far Out needs about 1,000 years to finish a single circle around the Sun. Far out! Have you ever imagined what would happen if 2 gas giants collided? The chances are small, but if something like this happened, not much matter would be lost, although it depends on the angle and the speed of impact. A head-on collision would make them completely merge and not lose any matter at all, whether we're talking about their gaseous envelopes or their solid cores. But at high speed, their 2 cores would merge and both planets would lose most of their envelope gas. At very, very high speeds, bam, both are gone. If there was an oblique collision, 2 cores could completely avoid each other. Planets would merge, but a substantial fraction of their gases would vanish into space. And in a very oblique collision, kind of like a sideswipe, planets would keep going like nothing happened. There's no evidence for that, but one theory even says Jupiter and Saturn, or at least one of them, might have formed by merging from smaller gas planets. Yep, it's all about gas. Pluto used to be considered a major planet, but later was reclassified into something called a dwarf planet. Something too big to be an asteroid, but too small to be taken seriously. How rude. But recently, scientists began to discuss the mystery surrounding one of Pluto's moons. It turns out it might be even cooler than all of us. It might be a double planet system. Pluto is residing in the distant Kuiper Belt. It's a vast area in our solar system, like a big rocky suburb beyond the orbit of Neptune. It's filled with small icy objects, similar to Pluto, called Kuiper objects. They're leftovers from the early days of our solar system and give us clues about how it was formed. It's where many comets come from. You already know that it's small, but it's remarkable just how small it is. Pluto has a width of about 1,400 miles. It's about half the size of the United States and smaller than our moon. Pluto's atmosphere is very thin and composed of nitrogen, methane, and carbon monoxide. Stinky. It's also very cold there, with average temperatures being around minus 390 degrees Fahrenheit. Its orbit around the Sun looks like an oval, and 1 year on Pluto takes around 250 Earth years. Pluto also shows a strange and unusual retrograde rotation because it's tilted on its axis, which means that it spins on its side. If you were standing on Pluto, you'd see a lot of high icy mountains, valleys, plains, and craters. The Sun would be very dim and far away, and it would always look like twilight. It's a colorful planet, surprisingly. You would see a rainbow of pale blues, yellows, oranges, and deep reds. And the most adorable fact about Pluto is its famous heart, called Tombaugh Regio. Pluto was discovered super late in the 1930s, later than the rest of the planets. Initially, we thought that it's the 9th planet in our solar system. However, the more we explored the Kuiper Belt, the more we realized that it's full of these medium-sized objects. We found 4 more little planets just like Pluto: Eris, Ceres, Makemake, and Haumea. They all shared the same characteristics. And that's where we figured out that Pluto belongs to another family and created a category of dwarf planets. There are a couple of differences between these 2 categories. The first obvious difference is size and mass. Major planets are much bigger and more massive. They also have to be spherical, while dwarf planets might not be perfect spheres and might have weird shapes, like an egg-shaped Haumea, for example. And just like a regular planet, a dwarf planet orbits the Sun, but it doesn't have a clear orbit. Its orbit is full of debris and random objects. These are the only differences between the two. Well, as you can imagine, the reclassification sparked quite a controversy. People even made up a new term, Plutoed, which means downgraded. But although it might be sad that Pluto isn't a major planet anymore, we can look at it like a story about finding your true family. And finally, while standing on Pluto, you would see its 5 moons: Styx, Nix, Kerberos, Hydra, and the most mysterious one, Chiron, also pronounced Charon. So you can pronounce it however you like. I'm going to go with Charon. Now Charon is Pluto's largest moon. It was discovered in the 70s thanks to NASA's spacecraft called New Horizons. The spacecraft took a picture that revealed a moon with a strange and fascinating huge red-brown spot on its surface. It's a vast canyon dwarfing the Grand Canyon. It seems that both Pluto and its moon can boast interesting formations on their surface. The thing about Charon is that it's very big for a moon. It's about half the size of Pluto. This makes scientists wonder, could it be that Pluto is a double planet system? The center of mass, or barycenter, of Pluto and Charon lie outside of Pluto. Normally, with planets and their moons, the center of the planet itself should be the center of the mass, with the moon orbiting around it. But in the case of these two, it seems like they orbit each other. Binary objects are quite common in the universe. These cosmic pairs form just like our moon, from giant impact events. But double planets are exceedingly rare, and we haven't discovered any double dwarf planets yet. So, if it's true, then Charon is actually the 6th dwarf planet, and that would be our first binary dwarf planet system ever. There's also another candidate, the dwarf planet Eris and its moon Dysnomia. The solar system is full of mysterious and fascinating moons, so fascinating that some of them might not even have actual life on them. We've been talking about microscopic life in space for a while now. The debates about whether we found some organic fossils on Mars or not have been going on for decades. With the development of our technology, we're finally getting onto something. Meet Enceladus, who has stolen the spotlight since NASA's Cassini probe arrived there. Enceladus is covered in a sort of snowy blanket, which is why it's so unusually bright and has some snow-covered craters. It's small, only about 310 miles, and is mostly composed of simple rock and ice. But in 2004, we found plumes of water bursting out from this moon's south pole, which means that there's liquid water beneath this moon's icy surface. It's probably because of Saturn and its other larger moon, Dione. Their gravitational dance creates tidal forces that keeps Enceladus warm and lively. All this means that Enceladus is now a top candidate in the search for life within our solar system. Of course, life requires more than just water, and we won't find any animals there or anything like that. But we might find some microscopic organisms, and that's awesome too. In fact, Saturn is winning the lottery when it comes to life candidates. For example, scientists have a wild idea that Titan, another of its moons, might be home to extraterrestrial life as well. Titan is a frosty moon, chilling at about minus 290 degrees Fahrenheit. Surprisingly, it has some lakes on its surface. But don't imagine your typical water bodies. These lakes are believed to be filled not with water, but with liquid ethane or methane. Back in 2005, NASA discussed that there might be life munching on chemicals like acetylene or hydrogen in Titan's lakes. And then, in 2010, NASA investigated this moon some more. They found missing hydrogen and acetylene on Titan's surface, hinting at the possibility of something eating away at these substances. That's why some scientists dare to imagine methane-eating beings in Titan's freezing lakes. Moreover, they suggested that if these creatures exist, they probably have much larger cells than animals on Earth. What we could find there is something much bigger than a simple microbe, even something like a small animal. But Saturn isn't the only lucky one. Triton is Neptune's biggest moon, And you guessed it, it's another life candidate. It's an icy world with frozen nitrogen all over its surface and a crust made of water ice, again super chilly. However, Triton is a hotspot for geologists because it's one of just 5 moons in our solar system that likes to show off with its active geysers. It's shooting nitrogen gas up into space. That would be a cool show, if we could see that. These geysers mean that Triton has some secret source of warmth, which means that, just like with Enceladus, there might be some liquid water underground on Triton. And if this cozy spot for life does exist, we might find some organics there. Unfortunately, sending a mission to explore these celestial bodies isn't easy. The only spacecraft we've sent so far was our Voyager 2 in 1989. We need more time, money, and technology to develop spacecrafts that would be able to travel far and investigate the area beyond Mars. And even if we do, it'll take decades for this spacecraft to reach these places. In any case, let's hope that during the 21st century, we'll finally be able to fully explore our solar system and all its mysteries.
This is Neptune. The next stop is Pluto. Stand clear of the closing doors, please.
One day, with top-notch future technologies, one stop from Neptune to Pluto won't seem much further than Times Square from Bryant Park today. There are huge ice mountains on Pluto, valleys that go further than your eyes can see, 160-mile large craters, almost as big as the largest one on Earth, and no life. The reasons are obvious. The long distance between Pluto and the Sun guarantees freezing temperatures on that dwarf planet. It also ensures a trip of a few billion miles. Plus, it's smaller than the Moon, so it would get crowded very soon if people started dwelling there. Still, there's one reason which makes life there not that far-fetched. The Sun has a lifespan and cycles within it. Our solar system used to be nothing but a cloud of gas and dust. As a result of a gravitational collapse at the center of this cloud, the gas and dust started gathering in specific, denser places. These pulled more and more matter as time went on, and something called conservation momentum made the mass start rotating and heating up because of immense pressure. Later, there appeared a disk similar to what Saturn has, but it was made of entirely different substances. And right in the center, there was the ball that eventually became the Sun. A protostar is a young star that's still gathering its mass, and that's exactly what the Sun was before the temperatures and pressures inside of it lighted up its core. Millions of years later, it became the Sun we see every day. But it won't stay this way forever. It will heat up even more and eventually get bigger and denser, turning into a red giant. It may one day get big enough to swallow up Venus and Mercury. Chances are, it might swallow even planet Earth. Even if it doesn't devour our planet, the Sun might get close enough to touch us. Well, if this happened, life on Earth wouldn't be possible. But then, in just a few minutes, the Sun loses about 40% of its mass and shrinks about 10 times what it used to be. It's not as bright, and indeed, not as hot as it used to be. By this moment, Earth will have already been deserted. People might want to start traveling around space, or settle down on another planet where life is sustainable, like the exoplanet Kepler-62f, which, by the way, is even bigger than Earth. While all of this was happening, Pluto was changing. Before, every resource was frozen inside of the dwarf planet. Water, gases like methane, carbon monoxide, you name it. But as the Sun was reaching its peak luminosity, Pluto was slowly warming up and losing a lot of what it had to the vastness of space. At the same time, an atmosphere formed up. If the atmosphere gets thick enough, it would create favorable life conditions. Then, instead of spaceships, a tiny percentage of us would be able to set up colonies on the dwarf planet. The temperature is comfortable there, almost t-shirt weather. It even resembles Earth a tiny bit. Canyons filled with water, beautiful endless fields with trees, and lots of space to run around, and mineral water pockets on the ground, good enough to drink. Pluto's rotations are different than Earth's. An Earth day is 24 hours, and sometimes it still feels like it never ends. But on Pluto, a whole rotation around the Sun takes 153 hours, because it's pretty far away from the Sun. After several hours without sleep, we get tired, and our eyes get red. It means we'd have to take several naps throughout the day on Pluto. A year on Pluto equals 248 Earth years. Unless we come up with some sort of technology to get us to live that long, our entire lifespan would be less than half a year on the dwarf planet. So, houses on Pluto might need to be equipped with cryo chambers. Whenever you feel like dreaming for a long time, you jump in it and wake up 50 Pluto days later. On the dwarf planet, there are also seas and beaches. So it's just like a tiny Earth, far away from the actual Earth. The food on Pluto could be tastier. We might find a way to make the ingredients more savory and even try to grow them faster during the trip. You plant a carrot, and 2 days later, it's ready to be in your salad. There could also be new ingredients for our salads on Pluto. Maybe 2-meter-tall mushrooms we've never seen before. The animals we would take with us on the trip would get released into their new home forever. And with time, they would evolve and adapt to their new environments. The law of the jungle could change a bit too. Lions might not be kings anymore. Deer are. Their antlers are twice the size of what they used to be. But to be fair, so are the deer. Most of the animals that were already here used to live underwater. But with time, the amphibians started shifting to the surface, just like Earth at the beginning of life. Pluto could only be a temporary home though. Once the sun has finally reached its final phase, Pluto would get frozen and lifeless again. People instead would need to try to find a planet that stays in the Goldilocks zone of another galaxy. The Goldilocks zone is the exact proper distance from the star like the sun, where the temperature is perfect for the water to stay liquid. It's the rule scientists search for when looking for other planets that can sustain life. We can try setting new colonies on one such planet, or even try to set up our own artificial home. Not exactly a planet or a spaceship, but a combination of both. Something huge built right in space, say a wheel with gravity everywhere we go, so we don't fall off. It would float in space toward the new exoplanet, capable of fitting entire states in. This whole trip might happen just because the sun first grew too much, and then, having reached the culmination of its life cycle, it would finally become a white dwarf. It's going to be a pretty long journey, and entire generations will be born here. You'll have a choice: sleep your way through the journey until humans finally reach their new exoplanet, or enjoy the trip in this fantastic spaceship. There's all you need on board: malls bigger than those on Earth, large futuristic cities, even places to farm, fields with rich soil made artificially, and finally, after a long journey, the exoplanet. It's even somewhat better than Earth. The planet is giant and has more continents. The continent's center isn't as far from oceans, which means there aren't as many desert areas. Though the sun of this planet is an orange dwarf, it's not as hot as our yellow dwarf sun today. It's a bit smaller, but here's the kick: orange dwarfs live somewhat longer. They remain stable for between 15 billion and 45 billion years. Despite that, this new planet is full of rainforests because the planet itself is warmer. It means more biodiversity and creatures we've never seen before. But even if nothing out there is suitable, we could try and terraform this planet instead. If we take Mars as an example, we could create a greenhouse effect by smashing ice-rich comets and releasing ammonia in them, making the planet warmer. We could also start planting trees. We'd probably need some Earth soil to do that, or we'd have to modify Mars's soil to be similar to ours. Sooner rather than later, the atmosphere would be close to the one we have on Earth. We'd be able to breathe too, because of the trees. Then, we can melt Mars's polar ice caps and voila, water. The problem is the solar winds and sun explosions that might strip it of an atmosphere just as quickly as we can create one, if not faster. It has no magnetosphere either, which means it can't protect us from radiation, so long-term Mars wouldn't be a good choice. Maybe out there, in the vastness that is space, there is a perfect planet waiting for us.
As you know, all the planets in our solar system orbit the sun and bring a sense of order to the place. But guess what? There are 2 planets that could collide with each other and cause a cosmic catastrophe. Here's Neptune, the most faraway planet in our solar system. It's 17 times heavier and 4 times bigger than the Earth. It's 30 astronomical units from the Sun. 1 AU is the distance between the Sun and the Earth, so it's 30 times farther away from our star than we are. And Neptune makes a complete circle around the Sun in 164 years in an almost perfectly round orbit. Neptune is cold, calm, and stable. But there's one planet that can ruin this balance: Pluto. It's a dwarf planet covered in rocks and ice. It's 6 times lighter and 3 times smaller than the Moon. We're interested in its orbit. If you look at a map of the solar system from above, you can see that it's not round but elliptical, so it's a slightly flattened circle. At its furthest point, Pluto is 49 Earth-Sun distances away from the Sun. When it moves, it comes closer to the star. At its closest point, Pluto is about 29.5 AU from the Sun. That's closer than Neptune. So, hypothetically, they could collide. Let's look at this collision from the front row. A little closer, please? Good. Neptune and Pluto are slowly approaching each other. They are both very cold worlds, but they begin to interact with each other gravitationally. Just like 2 magnets, it warms them up from the inside. Neptune is a gas giant. There's no solid surface there, so there's not much change in it yet. But Pluto has a rocky surface. Because of Neptune's gravitational influence, it's starting to crack. Pluto experiences continuous earthquakes. This causes it to heat up even more. When Pluto almost touches the gas giant, it begins to crumble from the inside out. Plus, Neptune has a very dense atmosphere, so the dwarf planet begins to ignite from friction with the gases in the upper atmosphere. Pluto is now very hot on one side and very cold on the other. This causes severe deformation, and it begins to crumble. Half of the dwarf planet's fragments remain in Neptune's orbit. They will collide with each other until they turn into dust and become new rings of the big planet. Other fragments will burn up in Neptune's atmosphere. And the biggest rocks that remain of Pluto will fall through Neptune until they're completely burned into dust. Neptune literally ate Pluto and continued its orbit without any change, all because the gas giant is 20 times larger and much heavier than the dwarf planet. So this collision would do no harm to Pluto. But it couldn't have happened in the first place, because their orbits don't actually cross. Let's look at the map of the solar system again, not from above, but from the side. All 9 planets here are on a horizontal line from the Sun. The distance between them is great, and their orbits don't cross. Here's Pluto's orbit. You can see that it's tilted relative to the horizontal line of all the other planets. It starts at the top, then dives under the orbits of the planets and comes back. So Pluto can never collide with Neptune. Still, planetary collisions have occurred in our solar system before, and thanks to these collisions, life appeared on Earth. Let's go back in time to almost 4.5 billion years ago. This ball of hot lava is Earth. It just formed from a cloud of dust and began to cool. But then, a wandering planet the size of Mars appeared on the horizon. It's called Theia. It was inevitably approaching our planet. The collision with Theia happened at a perfect angle. If Theia had hit us head-on, both planets would have been smashed to pieces. But it hit us almost at a tangent. Theia knocked some of the matter out of the young Earth and crumbled into rubble itself. It could no longer continue its journey because the Earth caught it in a gravitational trap. A large fragment of this planet remained in our orbit. Smaller fragments crashed into each other, falling to Earth or joining the remains of Theia. The dust settled, and we can see the familiar picture: the Earth and the Moon. This is the main theory of how it came to be next to us. Scientists say that it was this collision that caused life to appear on Earth. Theia brought a lot of ice on it, which turned into water on our planet. The new moon stabilized Earth's rotation, and conditions on the planet became perfect for the emergence of life. Another collision could create a blast wave that would spread out thousands of light years. Stellar collision. This usually occurs in binary systems with a white dwarf and a regular star like our Sun. A white dwarf is the remains of a star that has gone out. As the stars get together, they start to move around each other in a spiral-like dance. The white dwarf pulls down the upper layers of the larger star. This hot plasma and stardust form a luminous disk. The two stars get closer and closer. When they finally merge, this causes a chain reaction in the core of the hot star. The mass of matter presses on the star's core too hard. This causes the innards of the combined star to heat up even more, and it expands, creating a supernova. This is one of the brightest events in the universe. The light from the explosion can be seen hundreds of light years away. Another spectacular view is the collision of a star with a black hole. Black holes are the heaviest objects in the universe, and their gravity is incredibly strong. So when a star and a black hole get close, the black hole starts eating the lighter matter of the star. The hot plasma, like spaghetti, heads toward the heart of the black nothingness. For an observer, this plasma seems to settle on the very edge of the black hole. It's called the event horizon. The thing is that time is much slower near such a heavy object, so we think the matter stays on the event horizon, but in fact it's long gone into the heart of the black hole. As they get even closer, the black hole starts to literally tear the star apart and swallows it whole. At this point, the black hole spits out about half of the star's mass in the form of a beam of energy right out of its black heart. The other half of the star's mass becomes the black beast's food. We know of many black holes in our universe. The heaviest of them usually lies in the centers of galaxies. They can be millions of times heavier than the Sun. But what would happen if two black holes collided with each other? Our scientists had the opportunity to observe such an event. Two black holes weighing 66 and 85 solar masses gradually approached each other. They danced together, bending the light passing by them. But then they merged into one enormous black hole, weighing 142 solar masses. That same second, the new black hole released gravitational waves into space with an energy of 9 solar masses. Scientists were able to catch these waves and observe the merging of the two black holes from the front seat. But this event actually happened about 17 billion years ago. We're only now seeing it because the particles of light and gravitational waves took so long to travel the distance of 17 billion light-years to Earth. Now consider a galactic scale collision. Literally, it's a collision of the Milky Way and the Andromeda galaxy. This event will happen in 4.5 billion years, so stay tuned. The Milky Way has almost 100 billion stars. Andromeda has about 1 trillion. As the galaxies approach one another, they'll make several circles around each other. At that time, some stars may be ejected from the galaxies like from a slingshot. Then Milky Way and Andromeda will begin to merge. One scenario here is that our solar system will collide with another star system from Andromeda. In this case, there could be a stellar collision and a supernova afterwards. Our world would be destroyed. Another option is that the Sun would be ejected into dark space. In this case, we may not even notice the difference. All we'll see on Earth is a gradually disappearing starry sky, as our solar system will travel through dark space away from the home galaxy. But the most likely scenario is when the galaxies merge, it'll be completely painless for us. In fact, the space is very wide, and there's room for all the stars from both galaxies. The only difference is that we'll see a lot of new stars in the night sky, along with flying saucers from Andromeda. Nah, not really. But it's not the collision of galaxies that we should be worried about. It's our Sun. In 4.5 billion years, it'll become a red giant. It'll expand, swallowing up the nearest planets. Earth will probably be the first planet near the Sun. It'll be so hot that all life will simply disappear, and no one will be able to watch the galactic collision.
Frozen plains, icy mountains with their snow-capped tops glistening in the sun, valleys, craters, eternal freezing winter.
Wow. Hello there, Pluto. At first sight, it looks like a paradise for adventurers who love skiing, snowboarding, and all the other fun things you can do in snowy winter wonderlands. But the snow there is not like what you can find on the mountains of Earth. On Pluto, the mountain peaks are covered with frozen methane, while down here they're made of frozen water crystals. Because of its specific chemical composition, the snow on Pluto is red. The mountains themselves are very different too. They reach heights of up to almost 10,000 feet. But they're not rocky like ours, looking more like huge blocks of ice. Such a landscape cannot be found anywhere else in our solar system. But you'll need to pack some layers if you want to come visit. The average temperature there ranges from minus 375 to minus 400 degrees. When taking a look at it from a distance, you can see it has some kind of big, heart-shaped thing on its surface, called the Tombaugh ratio. That's actually a vast plain the size of Oklahoma, or Texas, that's covered in nitrogen ice. Scientists discovered this heart actually makes the winds of the planet blow. Craters are also big here, sometimes more than 160 miles in diameter, and some of them show signs of filling and erosion. Erosion is when land is worn away by natural forces such as wind, water, and ice. It's the same process that formed many interesting things that you can see on the surface of the Earth, like valleys, coastlines, peaks, or mountains. The fact that some craters are there because of erosion tells us that tectonic forces must be slowly changing the surface of Pluto. 1/3 of its surface is water, but not the kind that we like to drink, more like a really hard frozen ice. Water is vital for the evolution of life, but not water that's this cold, so it's unlikely that any life has formed here. At least for now. But how do we know all these things about Pluto? Well, here's the basics. Astronomers discovered Pluto in 1930, and just like with plenty other moons and planets, they named it after a figure from Roman mythology, the ruler of the underworld. Pluto was considered the 9th planet of our planetary system until 2006, after which it was recategorized as a dwarf planet. Despite its recent demotion, it is still the largest and the oldest known object in this region of the Kuiper Belt, an outer shell full of other dwarf planets and icy bodies. New Horizons. That was the name of the very first space probe that astronauts sent to have a look at Pluto in 2006. It reached a distance of up to 7,800 miles. While there, it took some important photographs and collected lots of important information, and discovered some of the mysterious cosmic oddities found on the surface of Pluto. One interesting thing about this former planet is that it sometimes has an atmosphere, and sometimes not. It has an oval-shaped orbit, which means, unlike most other planets, it doesn't travel around the sun in almost perfect circles. As a matter of fact, the sun is nowhere near the center of its orbit. When its orbit takes Pluto closer to the sun, the extra heat warms up a kind of thin atmosphere made primarily from nitrogen, an element our Earth also has in its atmosphere. Right after it's created, it gradually escapes Pluto's weak gravity. When the dwarf planet moves away from the sun, the atmosphere freezes and goes back to its solid state, falling back down to the surface of Pluto as nitrogen snowflakes. Pluto's interior is supposedly warmer than its surface. Some believe there's even an ocean deep underground. Despite being the largest known body in the Kuiper Belt, Pluto is still pretty small. It is smaller than the Earth's moon, around half the width of the United States. It has 5 spinning moons of its own, the biggest one half the size of Pluto itself. Our days last 24 hours, while one day on Pluto lasts 153. Earth needs 365 days to orbit the sun, while a year on Pluto lasts 248 Earth years. So, no birthdays there at all. It sits 3.6 billion miles from the sun, which is 40 times the distance of the Earth stands. If you were standing there, on Pluto, watching the night sky, you'd see the sun as just one small distant star, indistinguishable from the rest. Since Pluto has been demoted, Neptune is now the most distant planet of our solar system. It's also pretty fascinating. It's actually a huge ball of ice and gas. Yes, it's the densest gas giant in our solar system, but you still couldn't stand or walk on its surface. You would simply sink in. But if you could stand, you'd notice that the gravity force is similar to what we have on Earth. Despite its impressive size, though, Neptune is not visible to the naked eye from here. It's the windiest and coldest planet. And one year there lasts 165 Earth years. Still no birthdays. It takes more than 4 hours for the light coming from the sun to reach Neptune's surface. Our next gas giant is Uranus. 1 year on Uranus lasts 84 Earth years, so you can maybe get one birthday in there, but you better make it count. Just like Neptune, Uranus can't be seen without the help of advanced technology. The rest of the 6 planets can. But you can still see all 8 of them with binoculars or a smaller telescope. Now, pause the video, see if you can make your astronomy teacher proud, and try to remember which planet comes next in order from furthest to closest to the sun. You got it? That's right, it's Saturn, A+. Saturn is the 2nd biggest planet of our solar system, right behind Jupiter, and another gas giant where you'd sink in if you tried to walk on it. It's so gassy, you could put it in a lake and it would float. They call it the jewel of the solar system because it has a big ring system that kind of looks like a crown. Its rings are made up of dust, pieces of ice, and rock. Some of those pieces are as tiny as a grain of sand, while others are bigger than tall buildings. Next on the list, and completing our gas giant quartet, is Jupiter. Scientists call it a failed star since it's mostly made up of helium and hydrogen, just like the main star in our solar system, the Sun. But Jupiter doesn't have a mass big enough to start the chemical processes that turn it into a star. However, it is still the 5th brightest object in the solar system, right behind Mars. You probably have seen it when stargazing sometime, you just had no idea what it was. Okay, picture all the other planets combined and double their mass. That's a lot of mass, but Jupiter still has more mass than that. It's also the fastest spinning planet, so it takes only 10 hours to complete a full rotation on its axis. Our day lasts 24 hours. Imagine how it would look like to squeeze sleep, work, family, friends, hobbies, movies, all that in just 10 hours. I guess I'd have to sleep once every other day if I lived there. Now, picture this. Magnificent tall mountains, giant dust storms, volcanoes, deep valleys, craters. Mars. That red jewel scientists keep talking about being a potential new home for us. There were even some small meteorite pieces found on Earth that scientists realized were ejected from Mars. That's how close we are. If you love sunsets, you would definitely enjoy the ones here because they're incredibly blue, while the daytime sky is pinkish red. But when on Mars, you'd only see the sun at half its size compared to what we see on Earth. And of course, there's Earth itself. Seas, mountains, valleys, waterfalls, and of course, life. For 4.5 billion years, Earth has been home to so many different kinds of organisms that have lived, died, and lived again. And even though we know so much about our homeland, there's always something new to discover each and every day. The next planet, Venus, is the champion of superlatives. The hottest surface, the closest planet to the Earth, the biggest number of volcanoes, 1,600. If you compare it to other planets to our solar system, the brightest planet, with reflective clouds that make it so shiny you can see it from the surface of Earth. Oh yeah, and the slowest spinning body as well. It takes 243 Earth days for Venus to make just one single turn. You could literally walk faster than the planet's rotational speed. Venus also goes in the opposite direction of Earth, so sunsets there are set in the east, sunrises in the west. And last, but not least, Mercury. It doesn't have any moons or rings, and it's the smallest planet in our solar system. A year there lasts only 88 days. So get ready to expand that birthday budget. Mercury is the planet the closest to the sun, but not the hottest. Venus took that title. Mercury is not the hottest because there's no atmosphere to trap the sun's heat there. But it does have wrinkles. Only 1/2 of Mercury's surface faces the sun at any given time, meaning there's an incredible difference in the temperature on either side, and of course these sides switch as the planet rotates. The iron core of this planet has cooled and contracted over millions of years due to the rapid change in heat, which is why wrinkles have appeared on its surface. Well, that's a brief tour of all the planets of our solar system. And one dwarf planet. Sorry, Pluto. Thanks for watching.
Our good old solar system is actually a pretty bizarre place, what with all its out-of-this-world phenomena that we humans haven't managed to explain yet. There are rumors that a gigantic, undiscovered planet is hiding behind Neptune. Volcanoes on Pluto spew ice, and a colossal canyon on Mars can accommodate the whole U.S. territory and most of Cleveland. Well, let's figure out if it's true by talking about the most mystifying solar system facts. The solar system is 4.6 billion years old. So old, it's a senior solar system. Scientists came to this conclusion after they studied the oldest material they managed to get a hold of. And by that, I mean meteorites, of course. You won't be able to wear a hat on Venus, ever, and just try to stand on your feet. The planet is insanely windy. Its upper winds blow 50 times faster than the planet rotates. What's more, these fierce winds never stop and can get even stronger with time. Want to get away? You'll have to travel 11 billion miles away from Earth before ever leaving the solar system. Take your Google Maps with you. You probably heard of methane gas, a byproduct of natural processes such as volcanic activity and cows. Anyway, this gas is not only a part of the Martian atmosphere, but also the thing that confuses astronomers to no end. The thing is that the volume of methane on Mars keeps wavering, and scientists just can't figure out where it might be coming from. Can there be cows on Mars? As you may remember, Pluto used to be a planet but was stripped of this title in 2006. Later, it was reclassified as a dwarf planet. Gee, make up your mind. But the most unexpected fact about this celestial body is that its diameter is smaller than that of the US. See for yourself. The greatest distance across the country, from Maine to Northern California, is about 2,800 miles. As for Pluto, it's only 1,473 miles across. The planet Uranus, or Uranus, you can't win either way, rotates on its side, and astronomers have no idea why the planet has chosen such an unusual position. The culprits could be ancient mega-powerful collisions, but so far it's just a theory. By the way, this is the only planet laying on its side. Our Sun is insanely massive. Want some proof? Well, 99.86% of all the mass in the solar system is in the mass of the Sun, in particular the hydrogen and helium it's made of. The remaining 0.14% is mostly the mass of the solar system's 8 planets. Earth might not be the only tectonically active planet in the solar system. Astronomers have spotted some landforms looking like cliffs on Mercury. If it's so, the tectonic activity could explain the rapid shrinking of the planet. In most sci-fi movies about space, the main character gets into an asteroid belt and must dodge countless rocks that threaten to damage their spacecraft. Well, sorry to disappoint, but that's nothing like the real thing. The only asteroid belt astronomers know about is located between Mars and Jupiter. There are thousands of asteroids in this region, but they're so widely spaced that the chance of collision is next to nothing. You just ruined it. Sorry. Behind the orbit of Neptune lies the mysterious Kuiper Belt, filled with massive icy objects. The most curious thing about this space formation, though, is that scientists can't explain the pattern of its movement. The only explanation they have is that Neptune might be hiding a ginormous planet from our sight. This hypothetical planet has already got the name Planet 9, and all we have to do is wait until its existence is confirmed. Or not. Volcanoes on Earth are as different from those on Pluto as fire and ice, and I mean it. While we have volcanoes spilling lava on our planet, the volcanoes on Pluto spit ice. When frozen water expands, and this enormous pressure builds up until one day, bang, the ice erupts. In the process, a new cryovolcano gets formed. One of Saturn's moons, Lepidus, has a unique color. It's two-toned. One of its hemispheres is light and the other is eerily dark. Scientists haven't figured out this mystery yet. There's another weird thing about Pluto, or rather, about its atmosphere. First, it rises way higher above the surface of the dwarf planet than, for example, the Earth's atmosphere. What's more, the atmosphere on Pluto has more than 20 layers, and all of them are super cold and very condensed. We live inside the Sun. No, I don't mean that we're inhabitants of the red-hot ball of light approximately 93 million miles away. The thing is that the Sun's atmosphere stretches far beyond its visible surface, and our planet is right within its reach. In fact, it's the gusts of solar wind that create the breathtaking phenomenon known as the Northern and Southern Lights. The ocean on Jupiter is larger than any other on the rest of the solar system's planets. But wait! It's not the type of ocean you're thinking about. The one on Jupiter isn't made of water. This mesmerizing thing consists of metallic hydrogen, and its depth is a staggering 25,000 miles, which is almost the same as the circumference of the Earth. The Sun's atmosphere is hotter than the surface of the star. While on the surface, the temperature reaches 10,000 degrees Fahrenheit, the upper atmosphere heats up to millions of degrees. Scientists suspect that explosive bursts of heat from the Sun may have something to do with this unique phenomenon. People came to know about Saturn's beautiful rings in the 1600s, but only recently it became apparent that Saturn isn't the only ringed planet. All the gas giant planets, Uranus, Neptune, and Jupiter, have rings of their own, but they're thin and almost impossible to see. As for Mars, Venus, and Earth, they're made of rocky materials and have no rings whatsoever. Our solar system isn't the only one in the Milky Way galaxy. Far from it. The galaxy we live in houses about 100 billion solar systems. And if that's just our galaxy alone, can you imagine how many there are in the whole universe? At any given moment here on Earth, you can stumble across a rock that's arrived from Mars. After scientists analyzed the chemical content of some meteorites found in the Sahara Desert, Antarctica, and other places on our planet, they came to the shocking conclusion that they have a Martian origin. Since Mercury is the closest planet to the Sun, many people simply assume that it's also the hottest, and that's where they get it wrong, because, in fact, Venus, which is about 30 million miles further from the Sun than Mercury, is way hotter. The thing is that Venus has an incredibly thick atmosphere, which is 100 times denser than the one we have on Earth. On top of that, this atmosphere consists almost entirely of carbon dioxide, also known as a greenhouse gas. These factors make the temperatures on the planet rise to a staggering 875 degrees Fahrenheit, which is hot enough to melt lead. As for Mercury, its maximum temperatures reach only 800 degrees. Jupiter's moon, Io, exists in never-ending chaos due to hundreds of smoking volcanoes on its surface. If you ever visit this place, send me a postcard. Now, you'll see the smoke from these volcanoes billowing up high into Io's atmosphere. The most enormous volcano in the whole solar system, at least that we know of, is on Mars. The size of this monster is almost as great as the state of Arizona, and its height is as big as that of Mount Everest. How did it grow this huge? The answer is simple. There's much less gravity on Mars in comparison with our planet. Even if you're a tiny celestial body, you can still have a moon of your own. Hey, it's not that hard. In 1993, the Galileo probe was traveling past a miniature asteroid that was no bigger than 20 miles across, and discovered the little thing had a 1-mile-wide moon. Since then, astronomers have found tons of moons orbiting minor planets in our solar system. The valley called Valles Marineris on Mars is more than 10 times larger than Earth's Grand Canyon. And it's another thing that puzzles astronomers. After all, Mars isn't a planet with active plate tectonics. On the surface of Jupiter, there's a weird region that's called the Great Red Spot. Recently, astronomers have concluded that this spot is actually a storm that's been raging on the planet for centuries. But some 20 years ago, scientists noticed that the red region started to shrink. Nowadays, it's just half the size it used to be. And still, the spot is 1.5 times bigger than Earth. How about you? Do you know any other unusual facts about our solar system that I've missed? Then let me know down in the comments. If you learned something new today, then give this video a like and share it with a friend. But hey, don't go space traveling just yet. We have over 2,000 cool videos for you to check out. All you have to do is pick the left or right video, click on it, and enjoy. Stay on the bright side of life.
Have you heard about Planet 9? No, not Pluto. We're talking about something lurking on the outskirts of the solar system. A mysterious planet that exists in our solar system that we haven't yet discovered. We've been looking for it for years, but finally, it seems like scientists found a key to solve this mystery. Planet 9 is a hypothetical planet. Astronomers have been on the hunt for it for quite some time now. But it's so elusive that they've only been able to piece together a few details about its potential characteristics. One thing we do know is that Planet 9 has to be a massive world, possibly up to 10 times the mass of Earth. That's one big planet. It's also thought to be a distant wanderer, hanging out somewhere between Neptune and Pluto. Some scientists think that Planet 9 might actually be a mini Neptune,
with a thick, gaseous atmosphere and a rocky core. Others speculate that it could be an icy world with a solid, frozen surface and a thick layer of hydrogen and helium gas. Of course, since we haven't actually found Planet 9 yet, we can't say for sure what it's like. We're not even sure that it even exists. Some say it's just a myth, like the Tooth Fairy or the Easter Bunny, but others are convinced that it's out there somewhere. And at the end of the day, we're not entirely sure if Planet 9 is even a planet. It might be a special kind of black hole or made entirely of dark matter. The search for Planet 9 began in the early 21st century when a group of astronomers realized that something wasn't quite right with the outer reaches of our solar system. They noticed that some distant objects, known as trans-Neptunian objects, were behaving in unexpected ways. Trans-Neptunian objects, or TNOs, are like the cosmic version of those items in the back of your fridge that you forgot about for years. They're small, icy bodies that hang out in the Kuiper Belt, beyond Neptune. So, scientists noticed that these guys started behaving weirdly. At first, they thought it might be a fluke. But as they dug deeper, they began to suspect that there was a ninth planet lurking out there. Why haven't we discovered it yet, you ask? Well, it may be because of Planet 9's weird orbit. All the other 8 planets orbit the Sun in roughly the same plane, which is like a flat disk. However, our hypothetical friend's orbit is different. It might be tilted and move in a different direction compared to the other planets. Its orbit might also be stretched out like an oval, rather than being nearly circular like usual. Because of this, Planet 9 might spend most of its time far from the Sun, like a true introvert. It only comes relatively close to the inner solar system every few thousand years. This would make it super faint and hard to spot, so the only way we may discover it is by studying the gravitational effects it has on our solar system. And this isn't the first time astronomers have gone looking for a new planet. Back in the 19th century, there was a similar hunt for a hypothetical Planet X. But this time, they were armed with much better technology and a much better sense of humor. They began calling their elusive quarry Planet 9, which was much catchier than Planet X. They even came up with a hashtag for the search, Pluto Lives. It was a reference to the fact that Pluto had been kicked from the planet gang and some astronomers were eager to find a new planet to take its place. But the search for Planet 9 has been no easy task. It's like trying to find a lost sock in the laundry basket the size of a football stadium. It's so far away and so faint that even the most powerful telescopes can't see it. Instead, astronomers have had to rely on indirect evidence, like the strange orbits of TNOs, to try to figure out where it might be. Some scientists have even supposed that it might be a wandering rogue planet, which would explain why it's so hard to find. But they haven't given up hope. Till this day, they're scouring the skies using all sorts of high-tech telescopes and fancy algorithms to try and spot this elusive planet. And fear not, dear curious human, because it looks like after so many years of research, we may have finally found the key to solve this mystery. Astronomer Man Ho Chan from Hong Kong has a theory. He believes that Planet 9 could have a bevy of moons. That's right, not only is it a giant planet hiding out in the depths of space, but it's also a bit of a hoarder. Moons are all the rage in the outer solar system. In fact, almost every planet here has at least one moon, except for Mercury and Venus. Earth has just one, which is kind of sad if you think about it. Even non-planetary bodies like Pluto have at least a couple of moons. A bit unfair, isn't it? Anyway, taking this into account, let's go moon picking with Planet 9. The region between the rock-filled Kuiper Belt and the rock-filled Oort cloud, where this planet is predicted to be, should be ripe for the picking. Chan made some calculations and determined that it would be stranger if the elusive planet didn't have any satellites. According to his calculations, an object the mass of Planet 9 should capture at least 20 TNOs as large as almost 90 miles across. It's like our mysterious planet is playing cosmic Pokemon with these guys. So, what if Planet 9 has moons? Would that make any difference? Kinda, yes. They could give us some indirect clues to finally locate this mysterious planet. Now, you might be thinking, how in the cosmos can we possibly spot these teeny tiny moons? It's not like they're going to wave a giant flag or blast some Beyoncé tunes to get our attention. Well, apparently the key lies in something called tidal heating. Tidal heating might sound like a new workout trend, but it's a real scientific phenomenon. It happens when two celestial bodies are close together. You see, tides aren't just about the rise and fall of the ocean, they're also the result of gravity pulling unevenly on a planet or moon. When a planet and a moon are close enough to each other, their gravity pulls on each other, creating a bit of a football shape. And as these celestial bodies move around each other, they shift shape and generate friction inside, which produces heat. Wow, who knew that Planet 9 could have a workout routine? Perhaps we should start calling it Gym Planet instead. Anyway, if Planet 9 has any moons, the gravitational pull from these moons would cause it to change shape constantly, generating heat in the process. And we might be able to detect this mysterious planet through the heat produced by those moons, even though it gives off no other signals. Now, before you get too excited, finding them won't be a walk in the park. They're incredibly small and would be very far away from us. But hey, nothing worth discovering ever came easy, right? Scientists are optimistic that with the right technology, they can spot this telltale sign. It will be easier for us to spot them with fancy instruments like modern telescopes. Talk about cool friends to have, right? Sure, the process of finding it may be difficult and time-consuming, but the potential payoff is huge. Finding this planet could explain a lot of the strange behavior observed in TNOs, the Kuiper Belt, and beyond. As we've already mentioned, they've been acting super weird lately, tilting and aligning in suspicious ways. If this planet doesn't actually exist, we have yet to explain what is the reason for this strange behavior. In any case, the search for Planet 9 is one of the most exciting and intriguing quests in modern astronomy. It's like a cosmic scavenger hunt, and everyone's invited to join in on the fun. So, grab your telescopes and let's go planet hunting. Who knows, maybe we'll find it sooner than we think.
Dark, mysterious, cold space. Comets, asteroids, planets, stars, and something that's lurking over there, far beyond Pluto. Yup, this could be the 9th planet of our solar system, the one people have been wondering about for centuries. IRAS, which stands for the Infrared Astronomical Satellite, collected interesting data back in 1983. It could be proof that Planet 9 is hiding there. No one knows if it really exists, but this discovery helped to build a model to understand this potential planet better. And in 2016, scientists found out that some small space objects in the Kuiper Belt were orbiting a bit oddly. The Kuiper Belt is the outer area of our solar system. It's a ring in the shape of a donut, filled with leftovers from the times when our solar system was forming. You can find this donut beyond Neptune. The objects in that region of space have weird orbits, almost as if a big body with strong gravity is pushing them away. Knock knock, Planet 9 again. The theory says it might be 5 to 10 times the mass of our own planet and up to 20 times further away than Neptune. The astronomical unit equals the distance between our planet and the Sun. Pluto is approximately 40 astronomical units from the Sun, but Planet 9, if it exists, is 400 to 800 astronomical units away. It would take 10,000 to 20,000 Earth years for this mysterious planet to make a single circle around the Sun. This makes it harder for us to catch this space body. There's a theory Planet 9 may have formed between the orbits of Jupiter and Neptune, similar to the rest of the gas giants in our solar system. The gravitational force of one of the two huge planets probably kicked it out of its orbit. Oh no. Then Planet 9 could get ejected further away from the 8 planets we know about. It ended up as some sort of icy waste, quite small at the beginning. But as time went by, Planet 9 has cleared its orbit of frozen pieces of rock and dust and finally formed into a real planet. Another theory says that this could be a planet another star lost on its way while it was passing near our solar system. In any case, Planet 9 probably doesn't reflect that much sunlight since it's so far away, and astronomers aren't sure where exactly they should look for it. Space is dark, mysterious, endless, obviously. But if we do find Planet 9, it will be the first solid proof there are more planets in our solar system than we thought. Moving on to an interesting exoplanet, located only 90 light-years away from us. An exoplanet is generally a planet located outside our solar system. This one has an atmosphere with water clouds. 1 year there lasts 24 Earth days, and the planet travels around a red dwarf star, which is way dimmer and smaller than our Sun. That's why, even though the planet is 8 times closer to its star than we are to our Sun, the temperature there is similar to that on our planet. This exoplanet has a size similar to Neptune. It's also less dense, which means it's mostly made of gas, unlike Earth, which is made of rock. The average temperatures there is 140 degrees, which makes it one of the coolest small exoplanets we've ever discovered. And the cooler the exoplanet is, the bigger the chance we'll find clouds in its atmosphere. Researchers have discovered more than 4,000 exoplanets, but all of them have been found within the Milky Way, at least until now. For the first time, astronomers may have spotted a planet outside our galaxy. They called it M51 ULS-1. The planet is located in the Whirlpool Galaxy, a distant spiral galaxy 28 million light-years away from us. There was once a huge but pretty young star that got stuck in a gravitational dance with something that could be a dense neutron star, the collapsed core of a giant star, or a black hole. The star's dance partner had incredibly strong gravity. It was feeding on the star, greedily ripping away its plasma. Then something unusual happened. An unknown, maybe even Saturn-sized object passed by and blocked this confrontation from our solar system. Now no one can see what is going on. But this could potentially be the farthest planet we've ever discovered. There's a newly discovered planet outside our solar system. As large as Jupiter, it orbits 2 stars, and as we can observe it from our planet, it crosses in front of them both. The full circle around these 2 stars, which means 1 year, takes approximately 200 Earth days. On the day of the discovery of the previous planet, scientists also found it had an unusual companion. It's an extra-hot Jupiter with an ultra-tight orbit around its star. The year there lasts only 1.9 Earth days. This planet has a weirdly shaped orbit. Also, it travels in the opposite direction from the rotation of its star. If you could travel 57 light-years away from our planet, you'd see something pink lurking in the darkness. As you get closer, it becomes bigger and more fascinating. Yup, it's a magenta-colored planet. A few billion miles away from its sun, this sky is one of the youngest planets scientists have discovered. It's only 100 to 200 million years old. It's made of pink gas, similar to our Jupiter. So if you could fly closer to its surface, this gas would envelop you like a thick fog. You're coming closer and going deeper, and the gas is becoming darker, getting a reddish shade. And look at the planet's core. It's super hot. Because of its high temperature of 460 degrees Fahrenheit, this planet is like an oven. The heat is the reason the planet glows so brightly. You'll also notice the sky is hazy pink, with clouds made of droplets of frozen water, similar to ours. There is another exoplanet half as massive as Earth, which is one of the smallest planets we've ever found outside our solar system. It has a diameter of 5,600 miles. For comparison, Earth's diameter is 7,900 miles. The planet in question is mostly made of iron, similar to Mercury. Mercury has a massive iron core and a very thin crust, which makes it an oddball in our solar system. At its early stages, it collided with some space body at least once. That collision pulled its outer layers away, which is why only the firm iron core remained. Maybe this exoplanet participated in a huge space crash too. That's what probably took away the planet's mantle and left mostly its iron core. Or maybe this is just a remnant of a gaseous planet that used to be the size of Neptune. The atmosphere of the planet could be blown away by, let's say, a huge amount of radiation coming from the star. This planet is only 31 light-years away from us, and the day there is less than 8 Earth hours long. The planet is only a little bit bigger than Mars. People aren't likely to ever settle in that place because of its extreme temperatures that go up to 2,700 degrees Fahrenheit. There might even be molten lava on the side of the planet that faces its star. Such temperatures are high enough to evaporate any atmosphere, so this planet might have had one in the past. Generally, gas giants like Jupiter can't support life because they have extreme weather conditions, temperature, and pressure, and there are no building blocks that might create life. But smaller terrestrial planets, such as, Earth, have more key ingredients like oxygen and liquid water. Plus, they have more temperate weather and other conditions. And still, not all of such planets support life, of course. It's not easy to find a planet with similar conditions as the ones we have on Earth, or at least the conditions that would allow life to develop there. But meet Kepler-22b, one of our most promising findings. It's 600 light-years away from us, twice bigger than our planet, and with temperatures of about 72 degrees Fahrenheit. This is a so-called super-Earth. It's a category of planets unlike any we have in the solar system. They're more massive than Earth, but still lighter than ice giants such as Uranus or Neptune. Super-Earths can consist of rock, gas, or a mixture of these two. Kepler-22b is within the habitable zone of its parent star, which is less bright than our Sun. The planet probably has a rocky core. It may have an ocean, but it doesn't host any life. At least, we don't know about it yet. Earth. Home. The third blue rock from the Sun, the only known planet where life can thrive. We have around 78% nitrogen, 21% oxygen, and 1% argon, water vapor, and carbon dioxide, give or take. The perfect balance to support our respiration. The troposphere is the lowest and densest part of Earth's atmosphere, 5 to 9 miles thick. It's the part of the atmosphere that keeps changing our weather. For any life to exist, we would need this atmosphere and the same combination of gases to breathe. If all the planets in our solar system were combined to become a mega-Earth, then humans wouldn't have evolved the way we are today, and we'd have a very different planet. If we take the landscape of Mars, we'll only have solid land without large bodies of water. Earth is the only planet in our solar system with bodies of water. One of the first wonders to see will be Olympus Mons, the largest volcano in the solar system. It towers Mount Everest by a long shot at 78,000 feet above the ground. Velis Marineris is a group of canyons that make the Grand Canyon in the U.S. feel like a average one. This wonder stretches for almost 2,500 miles and goes more than 4 miles deep. On top of these epic terrains, there's plenty of other grand-scale locations on Mars that are way bigger than the ones on Earth. The planet might be as large as Jupiter. If the Earth were the size of a grape, then Jupiter would be the size of a basketball. We'd have the size of Jupiter and the rings of Saturn floating around us. The rings may seem like some large chunks of rock in the air, but they're actually ice particles and chunks of iced rocks. They range from the size of pebbles to car-sized ones. Saturn's rings are supported by the unique gravity in the region. With a lot of these ice rocks floating in the sky, there won't be much sunlight entering the planet, which means the planet will always be colder than usual. Not to mention the many moons it has. Our megaplanet could also have many moons circling above us, contributing to the tidal waves. Jupiter is known for the red spot, a place twice the size of Earth that has hurricane-like storms that have been going on for hundreds of years. The people of Mega-Earth will settle far away from it. Mercury is a planet but looks like the Moon due to all the craters lying around. That's because of many asteroids and comets striking it over billions of years. But the landscape here mainly consists of mountains, highlands, cliffs, and valleys. The Colorus Basin is almost 1,000 miles wide. They believe it was formed by a comet. The deserts on Earth are mainly hot and consist of dunes of sand, but they also have flat plains and small hills. The largest desert in the world is the whole Antarctic continent. Mercury has no atmosphere to trap any heat, so it gets really hot when the sun is facing it and freezing cold when the planet turns away from it. On this combined mega-Earth, the desert will most likely have a similar landscape to that of Mercury. The animals living here will probably be something like giant scorpions and desert snakes that soak in some sun during the day and go out hunting at night. But the soaring day temperatures would melt anyone walking. And even though Mercury is the closest planet to the Sun, it's not the hottest. Venus has temperatures of nearly 900 degrees Fahrenheit. Scientists believe that the lands here are flat because of the extreme temperatures, but it's not all flat, with some volcanoes and highland areas. We can probably find this terrain and climate near the equator, since it's always hot there. Humans can't live there unless they build special domes to sustain life. But since the planet is now huge, not all its territory needs to be populated. Some areas will have the proper atmosphere for breathing, but some places might not have such luxuries. Over at the poles, the climate will most likely mimic Pluto's, even though it's not technically a planet anymore. In 2006, they officially declared it a dwarf planet, and it's even smaller than the Moon. There's not much known about this little mini floating rock, except that it's composed of around 70% rock and 30% ice. Scientists believe that a part of its surface is covered in frozen nitrogen, solid methane, and carbon dioxide. Since the megaplanet is huge, gravity might be quite strong here. Jupiter's gravity is enough to double your weight. Humans will most likely be really tall and mega-sized to match the big planet. Even the oceans will be huge. Our oceans will look like little lakes compared to what Mega-Earth has in store for us. Humans need something close to 24 hours in a single day. Our bodies adjusted to it quite well, but it wouldn't affect us too much if the day had a few extra hours or a few hours less. We can't live on any other planet without wearing the proper gear. We wouldn't last more than a few seconds in places like Jupiter, Neptune, and Saturn. It's possible to last as long as you can hold your breath on Mars. The atmosphere is thin and the gravity is similar to ours, but you might freeze. Even though it's a red planet, it's actually very cold and has ice caps in the poles covered with carbon dioxide. The same's true for Mercury. You can only last there as long as you can hold your breath and be in the sweet spot between the sunrise and the sunset. Ancient civilizations wouldn't have been as diverse as they were on Earth, since the extreme terrains and conditions wouldn't have allowed for discovery and training. But eventually, as humans developed special technologies for certain areas, different cultures would emerge. Many animals would also evolve in specific and unique ways, but because of the planet's enormous size, isolation, and being on top of the food chain would let certain animals be around since the beginning of the planet without evolving. So it's possible that this mega-Earth might have ancient dinosaurs roaming around, and they'd be even bigger than the ones on Earth. And even though there's a high chance that some humans might be physically different than each other, there might even be more than one species of humans living on opposite ends of the planet. Because of the isolation, they evolved in their own ways according to their surroundings. Over the centuries, technological advancements would spread different cultures around, and we'd be more open to each other. Neanderthals and Homo sapiens once lived side by side and were considered as the two species of humans. Neanderthals were intelligent and used tools for hunting and drawing. Homo sapiens were survivors and wandered around to discover new land. There could be two dominant human species and other minor ones that live in certain areas on Mega-Earth. They'd be bigger, tougher, and faster than us. The ones who live by the trees would have elongated limbs to stretch out and swing from tree to tree. The ones that live in savannas will probably run really fast and have long legs for that. Countries and cities will be bigger than what we have on regular Earth. A country can be as big as Earth itself. The human population can reach tens of billions. Special transportation technology might be invented for people to travel from one continent to another. Covering those distances can take months or even years if using regular aircraft. High-speed trains that travel so fast over land and rocket-like planes going through the sky. Traveling through oceans will require extremely sturdy ships. Traveling through the Atlantic Ocean is already scary for many, so imagine going on a voyage across a body of water that's potentially 8 times the size of Earth. We're going to need a bigger boat. There'll be areas to avoid, like the red spot with its perpetual storms raging on. but the tourist industry might have some room for anyone who wants to see it. Living on such a huge planet is unlikely going to become a reality for most of us anytime soon, but scientists are already discussing moving to other planets to find a new home for humans.
Way back in the Victorian era, a strange celestial body appears to have popped up in our solar system. Was it an asteroid? Or maybe a comet? It took us until October 2017 to notice it and to start studying it closely. It was named Oumuamua, which is Hawaiian for scout. Not only is its shape extremely unusual, highly elongated and narrow, but it's also speeding so fast that it appears the sun's gravity doesn't affect it so much. So what is this strange, wandering rock? Specialists at first thought it mostly looked like an asteroid, but they took a closer glance and concluded that it was most likely a comet. They believed it's propelled by little jets of gas caused by the warmth of the sun, which could drive it off its natural course. Apart from the way it moves, the looks of Oumuamua are also special compared to those of other comets. These types of celestial bodies reflect about 4% of the light that falls on them. Oumuamua, surprisingly, has double the reflective properties. Sadly, we aren't able to study this bizarre object anymore since it has already left our neighborhood in the solar system. We've heard so many stories about the Bermuda Triangle, from its mysterious events to very detailed scientific explanations as to why they happen at times. Well, you'll be surprised to know there's a space equivalent to the Bermuda Triangle, which some astronauts claim to have witnessed. What they described was similar to an intense flash of light as they passed through a specific location, which they then called the South Atlantic anomaly. There could be an explanation for this. Firstly, it's important to know the Earth's magnetic field is not perfectly aligned to its rotation axis. There is an area of about 125 miles above the South Atlantic where some type of radiation is as close to the Earth's surface as possible. When passing through this location, computers stopped working, and space staff saw those cosmic bursts of light I mentioned. As far as we know, there are 8 planets in our solar system: Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune. But could there be another one, the 9th planet out there that we've yet to discover completely? Some astronomers are certain there is, and they're currently calling it Planet 9. Its location seems to be way beyond Neptune, the 8th planet we've known so far, and the farthest away from the Sun. The problem is, we've been wrong before. In 1801, we stumbled upon Ceres, what we now know as the largest asteroid in the solar system. But we initially believed it to be a planet too. And you must know the story about Pluto. First, we believed it was a planet right after we discovered it in 1930, but then reclassified it as a dwarf planet. The fact that Planet 9 is so far away from us makes it difficult to photograph and study, hence its uncertain status. For specialists to track Planet 9, light has to travel all the way out there from the Sun and almost all the way back again. Astronomers were able to cover somewhere around 30% of the area where this planet is supposed to be. They also estimate it will take about another 4 years to study the rest of it and make a conclusion. A nebula is basically a huge cloud of dust and gas somewhere in space. Some of them come from dying stars after they've exploded. Others are the locations where new stars are beginning to form. That's why some nebulae are even called star nurseries. They can come in many different colors and sizes, but one in particular caught the eyes of astronomers because of its spectacular shape. It's called the Red Rectangle Nebula, and it's located in the constellation of the Unicorn, about 2,300 light-years away from us. We don't know exactly what causes that unusual shape, but one explanation could be that there are 2 stars at its core. These stars could create 2 cones of bright dust, which together make the nebula look like a square. What's even more puzzling about this formation is that it displays something called extended red emission. This means that its dust has a specific reddish glow. It's difficult to tell what causes this, but those 2 potential stars in the middle certainly have something to do with it. Remember when I mentioned Neptune is the most distant planet in the solar system? It's around 30 times farther from the Sun than we are. It would make sense for it to be the coldest out of all the planets, but here comes the surprise, it's not. And scientists have yet to pinpoint why. In 1989, NASA's spaceship Voyager 2 passed by both Uranus and Neptune. It found that Neptune was warmer than its neighbor, even though it was farther away from the Sun. Scientists came up with a bunch of theories trying to explain this staggering discovery. One of them had to do with the gravitational differences between Uranus and Neptune. Neptune's blue hues are more intense than those of Uranus. So, NASA researchers believe there's another unidentified chemical in Neptune's atmosphere. It could explain the unusual temperature. The weather could also have something to do with it. Neptune apparently has the strongest winds and the most massive storms in our solar system. In 1989, for example, Voyager 2 detected a massive blizzard on Neptune, which they named the Great Dark Spot. This storm was bigger than our whole planet. It disappeared in 1994, so there's little we can understand about it these days. These extreme winds can push frozen methane through the planet's atmosphere and mess up the temperature. Uranus is a bit weird itself on a closer look, apart from it basically being a huge ball of gas, of course. Why is that? Well, firstly, because it rotates on its side, making it look like it rolls around the Sun like a ball. This curious orientation, about 90 degrees sideways, is probably because of some kind of massive collision that happened in its past. This tilt is also the reason why Uranus has the most extreme seasons in the solar system. 1 year on Uranus is as long as 84 Earth years. For about a quarter of this period, the Sun shines straight over the north or south pole of the planet. This could explain the huge difference between its highest and lowest yearly temperatures. Let's also look at the little ones for a bit, shall we? I mean Mercury and Pluto. Mercury is already the smallest planet, or second smallest if we count the dwarf planet Pluto, of course, in our solar system. It's also the second densest after our planet, and it's getting smaller and smaller, and denser at the same time. For a long time, we thought that our planet was the only tectonically active one. That was until we discovered that Mercury was still active in this department also. So that's probably the reason why it's shrinking and compacting as time goes by. Pluto's atmosphere is giving scientists a lot of headaches to this day. They revealed that it has about 20 layers in its atmosphere, and they're cooler and more compact than they initially estimated. NASA's New Horizons team also discovered that the dwarf planet releases a huge quantity of nitrogen each hour, but somehow Pluto can constantly restock on its lost nitrogen. Maybe it's thanks to some intense geological activity. Just like most participants at talent shows, we also have a failed star in our solar system. Sorry, Jupiter, we're talking about you. It may not be the most appropriate description in terms of astronomical facts, but some specialists do call Jupiter a failed star. That's because, similarly to a star, Jupiter has a lot of chemicals like hydrogen and helium. At the same time, Jupiter doesn't have nearly enough mass to start a fusion reaction in its core and transform into a star. Stars generate their energy by mixing together hydrogen atoms under extreme heat and pressure, which creates helium. As this process takes place, it releases light and heat, which gives stars their appearance and temperature. How do they manage that? Well, they have a significant amount of gravity for starters. For Jupiter to flare up a fusion process and transform itself into a star, it would need to be more than 70 times heavier. In theory, if we could mix together a lot of Jupiters, we might have ourselves a new star. But sadly for it, in our solar system, Jupiter will have to stick with being a huge lump of gas. Biggest of them all, though.
So, we might be getting closer to finding a massive icy planet beyond Neptune's orbit. Sorry Pluto, still not you. Recently, some universe mapping using data from a telescope in Hawaii eliminated about 78% of the possible locations for this mysterious Waldo from space. Some people call it Planet 9, while others prefer Planet X. Either way, it's been causing controversy since its existence was first proposed, and that is mainly because no study so far can answer the big question: does it really exist? If discovered, Planet 9 would rank as the 5th largest planet in our solar system, with a mass 10 times that of Earth. It's also theorized to be gaseous, like Uranus. The initial study on Planet 9, dating back to 2016, suggests that this colossal new planet orbits the Sun 29 times farther out than Neptune, which sits at about 2.8 billion miles. As a result, the Planet 9 would take between 10,000 and 20,000 years to complete a single orbit around the Sun. If confirmed, this yet-to-be-understood world would dominate a region larger than any other known planet in our cosmic neighborhood. These are all intriguing hypotheses, but without a single piece of evidence or observation to back them up. Before dismissing this as a wild guess, it is important to note that these researchers relied on complex mathematical modeling and computer simulations to speculate about the planet's characteristics, because that's what they do. The hypothetical presence of this planet would explain various mysterious features located beyond Neptune. We are specifically talking about the Kuiper Belt, a huge donut-shaped region filled with icy debris left over from the formation of the solar system, including comets and dwarf planets like Pluto. What happens is that the 6 farthest objects in the Kuiper Belt exhibit elliptical orbits that are all oriented in a similar direction within physical space and tilted approximately 30 degrees downward relative to the orbital plane of our 8 known planets. What's strange here is that, despite their distinct orbital velocities around the solar system, they maintain this alignment. The likelihood of such alignment occurring randomly is extremely low, around 0.007%. So, here comes Planet 9, a hypothetical massive celestial body that offers a plausible explanation for this strange phenomenon, potentially exerting gravitational influence to shape these orbits. The initial theory didn't hold up for long, facing accusations of observational bias and calculation errors. Then, in 2017, another study popped up, sparking back the idea that maybe Planet 9 is out there after all. This time, Spanish astronomers tried a novel approach, focusing on observing extreme trans-Neptunian objects. These celestial bodies orbit the Sun in highly stretched elliptical paths, with average distances exceeding 13 billion miles. The research suggests that the distances between these objects' nodes and the Sun might provide clues to Planet 9's location. You see, these nodes are the points where a celestial body's orbit intersects the solar system's plane. When these objects reach these points, they're more likely to interact with other solar system bodies, potentially causing significant changes in their orbits or even collisions. So, if the trajectory of these extreme trans-Neptunian objects remains stable, everything's fine. But if it's not, well, that's a sign that something else, something big, is messing with their path. And that's exactly what the research found. There is something unseen out there, throwing these objects off course. And that something could be a planet, chilling at a distance between 300 to 400 times farther from the Sun than Earth. To this day, the study of the extreme trans-Neptunian objects is the strongest evidence we've got for Planet 9's existence. And if you're still not convinced by this theory, know that strange motions like these have led to planetary discoveries before. Neptune, for instance, was spotted because Uranus's motion didn't quite agree with the predictions of Newtonian gravity. But the deflection of its orbit could be explained if it was caused by a pull of an undiscovered planet. And just like that, we discovered Neptune. Now, the year is 2021, and there's all this buzz about Planet 9 again. After correcting some old guesses, studies are now leaning towards the idea that this mystery world follows an epic loop around the Sun every 7,000 years. That is massive news, because it means this planet might be closer than we ever thought, making it easier for our telescopes to spot it. The paper also suggests there is a whopping 99% chance that the funky orbits of these distant objects are all because of this unseen planet, not just some cosmic coincidence. Now, the odds of this whole situation being a fluke are down to a 1 in 250 chance, which is much better than the 1 in 10,000 chance back in 2016. All these optimistic numbers have brought us to where we are today, keeping our hopes and working on better equipment to continue the mission of spotting Planet 9. As mentioned earlier, researchers in Hawaii created some kind of treasure map utilizing the Panoramic Survey Telescope and Rapid Response System to eliminate 78% of its locations. This is great news, considering how challenging it is to find a planet-sized needle in a cosmic haystack. But unfortunately, Planet 9's presence remains a ghost in the dark outer reaches of our solar system. Enthusiasts are still convinced of its existence and believe it is only a matter of time before we celebrate the discovery of Earth's new cosmic cousin. They're putting their hopes on the Vera C. Rubin Observatory, which is currently under construction in Chile and is scheduled to begin science operations in late 2025. Over the course of 10 years, this observatory will scan the entire southern hemisphere sky every few nights with a 27-foot, fast-moving telescope equipped with the largest digital camera in the world. The idea is to catalog everything in the solar system, reaching out to and beyond Neptune, and tracking the movements of millions of celestial objects, including space junk, asteroids, comets, and stars. If Planet 9 is indeed out there, this next-generation telescope could be the one to find it. The existence of this mysterious planet is far from being universally accepted in the scientific community. That is simply because Planet 9 isn't the only explanation for the strange phenomenon occurring beyond Neptune. One theory suggests that a group of distant objects, such as dwarf planets, comets, and moons, might be collectively influencing the orbits of the extreme trans-Neptunian objects. Others believe that a black hole is behind all this. These compressed masses are some of the densest objects in the universe, potentially capable of affecting the orbits of other masses, like how this supposed ghost Planet 9 is believed to be doing. Another bold perspective suggests that our current understanding of the laws of gravity is flawed, actually incomplete. This theory, known as modified Newtonian dynamics, proposes that these distant icy objects exhibit strange behavior not due to influence from another planet, but rather because the immense gravitational field of the Milky Way is influencing them. However, even supporters of this theory acknowledge that it is too early to draw firm conclusions, and much more extensive research is still required. While we continue our relentless hunt for Planet 9, some astronomers have taken it a step further, suggesting the existence of a hypothetical Planet 10. This world has a mass and size like that of Mars or Earth and is located on the edges of the Kuiper Belt. But the thing is, if this alleged Planet 10 is indeed as small as scientists believe, it might not have enough gravity to clear its orbit of debris. And that is pretty similar to what happens with Pluto, being one of the reasons why it got into trouble back in 2006. So yeah, it's better not to get too excited. This supposed Planet 10 might end up classified as another dwarf planet.
Our solar system might have some more planets up its sleeve. We know about 8 official planets, but they're not the only ones that survived the chaotic formation of our solar system 4.5 billion years ago. Astronomers say there are 3 categories of planets in our solar system. We're in the first one, the 4 rocky inner planets, Mercury, Venus, Earth, and Mars, that peacefully orbit the Sun. They're located within the main asteroid belt that separates Mars from Jupiter, which is in category number 2. That one's a group of planets in the outer solar system, the gas giants, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune. These planets have huge amounts of ice and gas around what scientists believe to be their rocky cores. The third group lies beyond the area where our local planets are, somewhere further than Neptune. It's the realm where you'll find dwarf planets such as Pluto, Eris, and Sedna, and many smaller space bodies like comets. But new findings say there could be something else lurking in the dark, besides dwarf planets and tiny space bodies. Maybe even a new planet! Models scientists made say that our solar system used to have 1 or more rocky planets, the size of Mars or Earth. Over time, these rocky wanderers interacted with the wide gravity fields of our gas giants. This kicked them into a far-out orbit, away from the neighborhood. The question is, if one of those Mars-sized planets survived and could really be somewhere out there. Scientists have made simulations to see what potentially happened. These showed that in half of such cases where planets interact with the gravity of gas giants, they get ejected into interstellar space. In the remaining half, there's this one rogue planet left in an orbit similar to the ones the Kuiper Belt objects are following. There's only one thing left to do now: find it. Astronomers found the loneliest planet in the universe. They were trying to find distant brown dwarf stars, or failed stars, ones that never become massive enough to start shining. Stars are born with big masses, which means they also have strong self-gravity. The star squeezes in on itself. That causes high internal temperatures and enables the star to shine. But instead, they found a lonely wanderer, CFBD SIR 2149. The planet is between 50 and 120 million years old and has a surface temperature of 750 degrees Fahrenheit. Compared to stars, that's cold. At first, scientists thought it could be a brown dwarf star, but in that case, it would be way older. This starless planet floats around through space, passing only 130 light-years away from our planet. Our galaxy, the Milky Way, is 100,000 light-years wide, so that's relatively close. The lonely traveler is actually a gas giant, 4 to 7 times bigger than Jupiter. Maybe it was kicked out from its own solar system because of gravitational forces, or getting into another planet's orbit. Or it was formed away from its parent star. Far beyond Pluto, on the edge of our solar system, there's a space body about as big as Pluto, but a little bit colder and way denser. It's probably a big rocky body covered in a thin icy mantle. It's the dwarf planet Eris. Both Pluto and Eris occupy the Kuiper Belt, which is the distant ring of frigid space bodies that lies beyond Neptune. A day there lasts 25.9 hours, pretty similar to Earth. But Eris circles our sun in the distance 3 times farther than Pluto, which means its year is pretty long, 557 Earth years. Eris has a bright, icy surface. It's one of the most reflective bodies in our solar system. It bounces back more than 95% of the light that strikes it. Somewhere out there, even farther, there's a super Saturn, J1407b, much larger than Jupiter or Saturn. It's an exoplanet, which means a planet that orbits a star other than our Sun. Super Saturn is 434 light-years away from Earth, in the constellation of Centaurus. It's the only exoplanet we know about with rings similar to Saturn. It actually has a huge ring system, 200 times bigger than Saturn's rings. There are more than 30 rings, each of them tens of millions of miles in diameter. There are gaps in the rings, which means there could be some interesting satellites, exomoons, around. If this super Saturn could swap places with our regular Saturn, its rings would absolutely dominate our sky. You could look up and easily see them. The view would be amazing because they would appear much bigger than a full moon. Scientists have found thousands of planets outside of our solar system. Some are dense as iron, while others are airy and light. And then there's the water world, GJ1214b, a steamy world, bigger than Earth and smaller than Uranus, 40 light-years away from us, in the constellation of Ophiuchus. It's a watery planet surrounded by a thick atmosphere, 2.7 times Earth's diameter, and almost 7 times heavier than our home planet. It was most likely formed somewhere farther from its star, where there was plenty of water ice, but later migrated to where it is today. Its surface temperature is 440 degrees Fahrenheit, which is too hot to host life like on Earth. It also has much less rock and much more water than our planet. Imagine a planet with no land, but only endless oceans covering all of its surface. High pressures and temperatures would form things like superfluid water or hot ice, some pretty exotic materials that we can't see on our planet. Gliese 436b. It's a Neptune-sized exoplanet 30 light-years away from our planet in the constellation of Leo. It makes one full orbit around its star in a little more than 2 days. This planet defies the laws of physics. It orbits its star, Gliese 436, which is smaller, cooler, and less luminous than our Sun, at a distance 15 times closer than Mercury is to the Sun. When we typically think of ice, we picture a frozen cube. But this planet has an icy surface, even though the temperature there is 980 degrees Fahrenheit. This temperature is way above the melting point, but the ice remains solid and burning hot. This happens because of very strong gravity. It compresses the water vapor in the atmosphere into solid ice. The pressure here doesn't allow the ice to melt, no matter how hot the surface is. Now imagine being on a mysterious planet and it suddenly starts raining sapphires and rubies. One distant exoplanet, HAT P7b, a gas giant 1,000 light-years away from Earth in the constellation of Cygnus and 16 times bigger, has specific weather and pretty violent storms. Rubies and sapphires are scattered across the planet when it's raining. On the planet's night side, there's a high amount of corundum in the atmosphere. And corundum is what mineral gems such as sapphires and rubies are made of. Clouds of corundum give such an amazing view. The planet is plagued by severe winds that often turn into powerful storms that push huge masses of those clouds across the planet. Although the planet is uninhabitable, it would certainly be cool to come there and pick up some gems. Still, the weather is pretty wild. Plus, the temperatures are over 4,600 degrees Fahrenheit. By comparison, Venus is the hottest planet in our solar system, and its temperature is only 900 degrees Fahrenheit. Looking over the expanse of space, you can see a beautiful little blue dot in the endless darkness. It's an exoplanet, HD 189733b, that lies 63 light-years from us in the constellation of Vulpecula. But it's way hotter and larger than our planet, around the size of Jupiter, and it completes its orbit around its host star in only 2.2 Earth days. That orbit is so close that the planet is most likely tidally locked. That means it's always showing only one face to its star, like our moon always shows one side to Earth. The weather here is crazy. The winds blow at up to 5,400 miles per hour, which is 7 times the speed of sound. The fastest wind on Earth only hit the mark of 230 miles per hour. And it gets better. The rain here is not made of water, but of molten glass. Clouds are made of silicate atoms and particles. They are the key element that gives the planet its cobalt blue color, not the reflection of oceans, which is the case with Earth. Earth used to be purple. Today, even when you look at our planet from space, you see a lot of green. The green we see in nature is there because of photosynthesis, the process where plants transform energy coming from the sun into energy they need to live and to produce oxygen for us. The main part of the process that gives plants the green color is the chlorophyll pigment. A long time ago, instead of chlorophyll, there was a molecule called retinol. Its pigments absorb yellow and green light and turn it into red and blue, so the Earth was more purple. And then there's a pink planet, GJ504b, far away from us, in the Virgo constellation, 4 times more massive than Jupiter. It's a newly formed exoplanet, around 160 million years old. By comparison, the Earth is 4.5 billion years old. If we could go there, we would see an incredible world that glows from the heat of its formation. Everything around you would be colored magenta. You're on a spaceship flying through outer space at a speed of 180,000 miles per second. This is almost the speed of light. Make yourself comfortable, because the voyage is going to be long. It will last a little more than 90 years. It's better to use a cryo capsule to not get bored. In short, you need to fly for almost a century at the speed of light to get to a mysterious exoplanet that scientists have recently discovered. They have found many planets in the last few years, but this one can help in the search for extraterrestrial life. The planet looks like a dark blue ball and has a complex technical name consisting of letters and numbers. It's about the size of Neptune and orbiting around a little star of class M, or in simple words, around a red dwarf. The planet is 8 times closer to its star than Earth is to the Sun. But this doesn't mean that fiery layers of magma cover the surface of this world. The temperature on this exoplanet is pretty low and similar to Earth's. That's because the red dwarf is not as hot as our Sun. But the most exciting thing is that the atmosphere of this space object consists of water vapor, or helium hydrogen. Scientists don't know for sure, so they actively observe it. But if there is water in its atmosphere, then life can exist. It's unlikely we will discover some big creatures, but even microscopic bacteria would be a big sensation. Another reason why scientists keep their eyes on this planet is its origin. If they find out what the planet's atmosphere is made of, they'll understand how such objects can form around red dwarfs. This will be another little brick of understanding of how the universe works. Even if they discover life on this strange planet, it will be impossible to transport it from there for us to study. Fortunately, there's another massive object near Earth where microbes can live, and it's located inside our solar system. In 2020, scientists detected a strange gaseous substance in Venus's atmosphere. These were chemical residues of phosphine. This is a significant finding because phosphine exists on Earth near some microbes. They've recently discovered phosphine in penguins' bodies. Many people started to put out theories that these animals came to us from Venus. But, of course, this is not true. You can also find this substance among swamps and mud. So it was a big surprise when they found residual phosphine parts on another planet. It's weird, since life on Venus's surface most likely cannot exist. The temperature and pressure on the planet are just too high. But high up in the sky of Venus, the conditions are not so terrible. Perhaps some microbes live there. But scientists also know that volcanoes often erupt there. A chemical trace of phosphine may appear as a result of these eruptions. If this is the real reason for the appearance of phosphine, they probably won't find any life. Now they're spending a lot of money on the study of this planet. But let's go back to deep space. Over the past 20 years, scientists have been finding exoplanets far and not too far from us. Some of them orbit around dwarfs and big stars, but some planets exist entirely alone. They don't belong to the orbit of any star. They are abandoned in cold outer space. Another exciting thing is that scientists haven't found a planetary system similar to our solar one. All distant exoplanets are located at different distances from their stars. Their sizes and masses are not like those that our planets have. We call them exoplanets since they're beyond our solar system. Some other fascinating space objects are super-Earths. If some planet weighs from 2 to 10 Earth masses, is 2 times bigger, and gets energy from a star, it's called a super-Earth. No more similarities with our home. Super-Earth can consist of gas, rocks, water, ice, fire, acid, glass, or diamonds. Scientists haven't yet found a super-Earth with ideal conditions for humans. Not because all planets are bad for life, but because our body has evolved and adapted to Earth only. We don't know much about super-Earths. They contain a massive amount of energy because of their enormous masses, and this energy is released. Therefore, frequent volcanic eruptions and earthquakes occur on many of these planets. Thunderstorms happen there almost every day. And by the way, one day there lasts several times longer than our 24-hour one. Let's imagine you're on the spaceship again, traveling to some super-Earth. So here it is, massive, orange, majestic. You put on a spacesuit, get into a space capsule, and you change your mind. The whole planet resembles a fiery, boiling ball. If it has any life, it must be some invulnerable creatures. You're not like that, so you fly away to look for another super-Earth. A couple light years away, that giant ball seems to be a friendly place. Wait, this world is located far from its star. The temperature there is so low that even molecules freeze. Antarctica is like a hot desert compared with this super-Earth. You continue your voyage and finally find a perfect spot. It's 3 times heavier and twice bigger in size than Earth. It consists of rocks, gases, and possibly water. You descend to the planet on the transport capsule, open the door, and take one step. Your legs are too heavy. Your whole body has gained weight. You feel as if you were carrying a huge box of bricks on your back. You can't even walk a few feet. And the reason for this is gravity. The greater the weight the super-Earth is, the greater its gravitational force becomes. You're pressed to the ground, and your muscles are too weak for this. Also, increased gravity provokes active fluctuations of tectonic plates. Earthquakes and landslides happen on this planet pretty often. The rocky surface here is constantly changing. To live on such a planet, you would need to develop new technology to build houses. You get back into the capsule and fly away, but not too far. The planet's gravity doesn't allow your ship to rise high into the sky. It's like ropes pulling you down. You use all the remaining fuel to overcome the gravity and go beyond the atmosphere. Another problem with such worlds is meteorites. Gravity attracts not only your ship, but also colossal space objects flying by. A giant asteroid can get off its route because of the attraction of the super-Earth. It can hit the planet in the form of a meteor shower, but the falling speed is also faster, so the destruction will be more massive. But the worst thing that can happen to the super-Earth is the stoppage of the planet's core, caused by high pressure. Hundreds of billions of tons of solid rock can squeeze the heart of this world, and the core should always be in motion to perform its primary function, keeping the magnetic field working. Solar storms and cosmic radiation can create severe problems for all life on the surface. On Earth, these storms disrupt the operation of electronics and affect human health. This happens even if small holes appear in the magnetic field. And what would happen if all the protection disappears? The energy of the closer star and the radiation from distant space would quickly destroy the super-Earth and make it impossible for life to develop. All these events can happen to a super-Earth with ideal conditions for living. And such a planet is a rarity. Most super-Earths have terrible surfaces and atmospheres. There's a planet where the air is so hot that it can evaporate metals. The fiery wind simply splits any solid substance into molecules. Such a super-Earth is more like a star, not an ordinary planet. Also, there's another super-Earth, wholly covered with water. You won't find a single piece of land there. The ocean floods any island in a second. And underwater, there are volcanoes. They erupt almost every hour, releasing billions of tons of magma. Because of the heavy weight, the planet is slightly tilted. When it rotates around its axis, the water flows from one side to another. This creates huge destructive tsunamis bigger than the size of Everest. And how about a super-Earth where it's raining diamonds or sulfuric acid? The surface of another distant world is blown by winds consisting of glass. There's a lot of fire and sand. When the hot air burns the sand particles, they turn into glass. Among all such planets, ours seems to be a paradise. But perhaps for some strange organisms living at the distant end of the galaxy, Earth may seem to be a terrible world.